Here are tonight's Lotto Texas winning numbers.
The most watched news team on the South Plains, KCBD 11 Lubbock. Now, Abner Uresti, Karen McKay, meteorologist John Robison, and John Harris Sports. This is News Channel 11 at 10.
Regents of Texas Tech University voted today to leave the Southwest Conference and join the Big Eight. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Tech's 9 regents had little discussion and no dissent before the vote. The Red Raiders will join that newly expanded league no later than June 1st, 1996. Texas Tech joins Texas, Texas A&M, and Baylor in that move, ending an association with the Southwest Conference that had begun in 1956. Regents needed only a few minutes to decide their unanimous vote. Afterwards, school president Dr. Robert Lawless said it was a credit to Texas Tech fans that the Red Raiders were included in the deal.
There's no doubt that we are not the driver of this situation. We are not the marquee name. And I am pleased that we were invited.
And of course, John will have more later in sports.
The state's top education officials gathered in Lubbock today to swap ideas. State and local school officials met at the Education Service Center to talk cutting expenses. News Channel 11's Dana Gundy has more in this report.
Leaders in educational reform. Texas Representative Libby Linebarger, Senator Bill Ratliff, Commissioner Skip Mino. If you've kept up with the educational action in Austin, you've probably heard of them. But now you need to add one more name to that list, a familiar name, LISD Superintendent Mike Moses.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to serve as a member of the committee. I've been appointed by the Lieutenant Governor and the Speaker of the Select Committee to look at the organization of the Texas Education Agency and also to look at rewrite of the Texas Education Code.
And so, as part of the process, they travel the state gathering input from local districts.
How are we going to continue to look for ways to improve student achievement? That's what the state system of education should be about. I think we're going to be looking at ways to fine-tune and improve that system in any way that we possibly can.
And that includes budget cutting. Currently, about half of every education dollar goes to supportive services, like hot lunches, transportation, and vocational courses. To cut those expenses, members are considering service consolidation.
I think there are tremendous savings to be had in small school districts in terms of cooperative efforts on transportation.
And Mino says many already consolidate, sharing buses between small school districts and saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. The commissioner hopes by offering incentives to other school districts, they too can start putting more money back into their classroom. Dana Gundy, News Channel 11.
The Joint Select Committee will meet again on March 25th in San Antonio, this time to discuss special student populations.
43-year-old Traysall Hodge III died today at University Medical Center from stab wounds he received at his home. His wife has been charged in the death. 25-year-old Cynthia Ann Hodge is charged with voluntary manslaughter. According to police reports, this mobile home in the 7300 block of 4th Street has been the scene of several domestic disturbances in the past. And investigators say Cynthia Hodge has also been the victim of violence in the past. Police say the couple was returning from a night out on the town when they began fighting. The violence peaked with the stabbing death of Traysall Hodge in front of his home. It will be up to a grand jury now to sort out whether stiffer charges or any charges at all will be brought against the wife.
Victims of the World Trade Center bombing were remembered today in New York. A special mass was said in their honor at the Church of St. Peter in Manhattan. Governor Mario Cuomo attended the service. He prayed for acceptance of the tragedy and healing of emotional scars that remain. Tomorrow marks the one-year anniversary of the attack that killed 6 people and injured 1,000. Jury members are currently deliberating the fate of 4 defendants in that case. A verdict could come as early as next week. Well, still to come, the U.S. strikes back in this week's spy saga with Russia.
An American-born immigrant is blamed in a West Bank massacre.
And old denim is good news for a Lubbock man.
This portion of News Channel 11 is brought to you by Gene Messer Ford and Mitsubishi.
New developments today in the CIA spy scandal involving the Russians.
The word in Washington today was retaliation, as Pat Collins reports the United States has given Russia's top intelligence officer 1 week to get out of the country.
Russian embassy officials called to the State Department today and told that one of their top officers was being expelled. Expelled in retaliation for the AIM spy operation. Kicked out of the U.S., Alexander Lysenko, the senior intelligence officer.
The individual in question is the chief Russian intelligence official here in Washington, the so-called resident of the SVRR. Clearly, the United States believes that this individual was in a position to be responsible for the activities associated with the Ames espionage case. And for that reason, we insisted to the Russian government that he be held accountable.
Rick Ames, a veteran CIA official, and his wife were charged Tuesday with selling secrets to the Soviets. The FBI says Ames received $1.5 million for double dealing. President Clinton said today, if the charges against Ames are true, a great deal of damage has been done. But the president says we should not allow this to destroy our relationship with the Russians.
It is in our national interest to continue working with Russia, to lower the nuclear threshold, to support the development of Russia as a peaceful democracy, stable and at peace with its neighbors, to be a constructive partner with the United States in international diplomacy, and to develop a flourishing market economy that can benefit both their people and ours.
I'm Pat Collins for NBC News.
Checking stories around the world, negotiators are using today's Hebron massacre as motivation to escalate the Middle East peace process. Talks between Israeli and PLO officials will move to Washington at the invitation of President Clinton. An investigation is underway into the attack at the West Bank Mosque. The attack by an American-born Jewish immigrant left at least 40 people dead, another 14 were killed, and scores more injured in the riot sparked by the shooting.
Sarajevo's main marketplace reopened this morning. 2 weeks ago, it was hit by a mortar. 68 civilians were killed in the attack and more than 200 were wounded. Since the attack, Muslims and Serbs agreed to a truce within a 12-mile radius of Sarajevo. NATO had threatened to attack the Serbs if they had not withdrawn their heavy weapons around Bosnia's capital. And another truce went into effect today between the Muslims and Croats.
After 41 years, the U.S. Air Force Base in the Eifel Mountains of Germany is no longer. The base closed today amid farewell ceremonies that included the takeoff of 8 F-15 jets that will never return. The Americans who had been stationed at the base organized a farewell party there and invited local residents, but the local residents weren't in a party mood, as a closure of the base also means a loss of 500 jobs and steady incomes to small businesses in that community.
Candidates for Lubbock County offices will face off in an election forum tomorrow night right here on News Channel 11. The live broadcast will begin at 6:15 following an abbreviated version of our News Channel 11 at 6. Candidates in all local contested races will be here, including those running in the hotly contested district attorney race. The forum is brought to you by News Channel 11 and the Junior League of Lubbock.
Well, John, we had a little cold front come in this morning.
As a matter of fact, well, I guess you could call it little winds of 40 miles per hour. Really has cooled us down.
I mean, big cold front.
He wasn't out this morning.
Yeah, that's why. But the winds were quite high. And, you know, earlier today we were closing out our weather school program, so we want to show our video from our live broadcast, the last one of the month at Casey Elementary, with Aaron Brogna, who was the teacher there, and Lynn Gilliard, and we appreciate all the help we've had on weather school program. Do want to mention quickly that we had a lot of interest in the clouds over the South Plains, and we'll talk about those in a minute.
This portion of News Channel 11 is brought to you by United Supermarkets. This portion of News Channel 11 is brought to you by Pollard Ford.
We have quite a few phone calls here to News Channel 11 tonight. We're going to take a look at our satellite as I tell you what is taking place. Obviously, cold air settling in, cold, dry air, and with the moon above us, we had the vapor trails showing up quite vividly over the South Plains. In fact, a couple of people called in. You can see those a little bit on our satellite here, and at one point they were actually making somewhat of an X over the city in the South Plains. You can see some of those trails. I know they're kind of hard to see on our infrared satellite, but it looked very unusual, and so that's what it was. Those clouds, a combination of the clear skies initially. I know they're cloudy now. We had those vapor trails from the jets going over, and that dry, cold air made some unusual clouds over the South Plains. And right now we're beginning to get cloudy because subtropical flow from an upper-level system is working its way back into West Texas. There's no rain with these systems right now, and there's actually several of them well out to our west from Arizona down into Mexico. The moisture with that is working its way at the high levels, and again, That's why we're beginning to get cloudy. Still have the cold air at the surface. The front continues to push to the south and really pushing to the west, a little further west. In fact, this front was just stronger than the computer models thought it was, so that's why we were so windy and so cold today, and that's why the front is pushed all the way over to about Albuquerque. Temperatures steadily dropping behind it, especially here in West Texas. Now, they're not as cold in Midland because they're cloudy, but look in Lubbock and Amarillo and back into Kansas, 20s and even teens in Kansas right now. Presently in our city, we've got the clouds coming in. It's partly cloudy and 28. Northeast winds are down to 10 miles per hour, but that still gives us a wind chill of 13, humidity of 42%. Our pressure is 30.30, kind of leveling off right now. 25 our morning low, but the way temperatures are dropping, unless the clouds stop us, we may be colder than that by midnight. And midnight's when we had our high of 50 degrees. Our high for the afternoon was only 45 degrees here in our city. Well, as far as temperatures, the next couple of months, the National Weather Service made their projections today based on their computer statistics. And from March through May, we're supposed to be close to or above normal with temperatures. We start out with an average high of 61 in March to an average high of 87 by late May. Good news there. Bad news, we're going to be near to below normal on our rain potential through that same 3-month period, and our average rain through those 3 months is only 3.32, and we may even see less than that. And you know, from a couple of days ago, that's been our pattern for the last couple of months, a little warmer than normal and drier than normal. And I don't really see any significant chance of rain through tomorrow. I think we'll have a little better chance on Sunday. Tomorrow, maybe some rain down south, the Big Bend, possibly up into southern New Mexico. We're going to have more clouds here, though, and even though our winds will be out of the south, our warming trend will be very slow. Highs only in the 40s, maybe a few low 50s here, and even that's questionable. 40s to the east, 50s down south. Morning lows, very cold, and if we clear out briefly, we might even see lows colder than this. We'll go 25 Seminole, 23 Snyder, 20 Matador, and then teens northern areas. Tomorrow's highs, really not much warmer at all, even though the winds will be out of the south. The wind speeds will be 15 to 20, so that's going to make it feel cold. Variable clouds, 48 in Seminole, 43 in Snyder, 45 in Matador, 48 in Levelland, so temperatures will be below normal on Saturday. Same story for us in Lubbock. Very cold tonight. The clouds may help us out a little bit as a blanket, so we'll go for 25 at 8 o'clock, but only in the 30s at noon, and looks like upper 40s. Near 50 with a south wind 15 to 20. We're going to say near 50 tomorrow, and that will really depend on whether we get some breaks in the clouds by mid-afternoon. We're going to put in a slight chance of rain, though, Sunday night and go for a high of 60, then a little cooler Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So, again, that was just vapor trails from the jets tonight.
All right. Thank you, John.
And still to come, not just your ordinary pair of jeans.
But first, health-wise, a suggestion that could take the nicotine out of smoking.
This portion of News Channel 11 is brought to you by Toyota of Lubbock.
Health-wise, what a blow to the tobacco industry today. The chief of the Food and Drug Administration suggested for the first time in a report that the agency should ban or at least control the amount of nicotine in cigarettes because it has the power to regulate the content of cigarettes just as it regulates drugs. The suggestion came from Commissioner David Kessler, partly in response to new evidence that some manufacturers are deliberately adding more nicotine to cigarettes to make them more addictive. Kessler says cigarettes need some control, but he admits that if the FDA were to erase nicotine from the content altogether, we could see withdrawal effects on the 60 million who now smoke. Also tonight, this time an autopsy team wore safety suits in a protective cubicle to search for the source of fumes that made 6 emergency room workers sick over the weekend. An emergency team in Riverside, California was trying to revive a cancer patient when fumes overwhelmed them. Some say they thought they smelled ammonia. Now it appears a toxic agent may have been a chemical used in pesticides. This time, the 4-person team conducting that autopsy last night was monitored by closed-circuit television in case of another emergency, but nothing unusual happened. And authorities are hoping tests from the body will show what triggered those mysterious fumes. A doctor and nurse are still hospitalized from the incident on Saturday. Some important contributions by student researchers at the Texas Tech Health Sciences Center were highlighted this morning. Several of the student researchers displayed projects completed during the last semester on a variety of subjects. In addition, companies presented innovative medical research equipment to both students and the faculty at the school. Student Research Day has been celebrated since 1989 as an opportunity to show off the early achievements of those doctors and researchers who will lead us into the future of medicine.
And still to come, the oldest living Levi's are here. They're not living. They're here in Lubbock, though. We'll show them to you.
But first in sports, more on Texas Tech and its plans to join the Big 8.
This portion of News Channel 11 is brought to you by Methodist Hospital. There is a difference, the Methodist difference.
Well, as Dr. Lawless said, we're not the drivers, but I'm glad we're on the bus.
That's right, because we have pulled out of the station. Nebraska and Oklahoma on the football schedule next season. Nothing much going to change in years to come, it doesn't look like. Well, as you know, it's official. Texas Tech is leaving the Southwest Conference. Red Raiders will join Texas, A&M, and Baylor in a move to the Big 8. For Tech, it ends a relationship that began nearly 40 years ago when Tech left the Border Conference. This jump to the Big 8 grew out of talks designed to get a better TV contract for both leagues. And the move becomes a reality in the summer of 1996. Our Joel Grunberger was there when Texas Tech made the decision to leave the Southwest Conference.
The entire meeting took all of 15 minutes.
Would you affirm that it's unanimous?
Yeah. And with that, today's conference call became a leaving the conference call.
From an emotional and almost romantic side, I think all of us wish that the Southwest Conference would continue. But if you put on a chief executive or a business hat, this was the logical decision to make.
The new conference will bring a new TV deal and more money, the driving force behind Texas Tech's exit from the Southwest Conference, and the school will not lack for ways to spend any additional revenue.
Title IX, gender equity, and the need to finance all of those programs. So I think finances are very important.
And with this new conference, TV deal, and money will also come, so the logic goes, a higher standing in the NCAA community.
There's a chance for Texas Tech, just by the geography of the new alignment, to take on a much greater national image across the country, and not only through the heartland, but across the country.
There are still a lot of questions which need to be answered, like, will the new conference be divided into separate divisions? Will there be a conference championship game, or even the name of the new conference? But one thing is for sure, if Texas Tech is going to represent the Southwest Conference in the Cotton Bowl for the first time ever, it's got 2 years left to do it. Joel Grunberger, News Channel 11 Sports.
And following today's decision by Tech in Texas, the Big 8 officially accepted the 4 schools. Several Red Raider coaches we talked with are excited about what's ahead. Spike Dykes among them. He says it will mean taking Wall-Tech sports to a higher level of collegiate athletics.
I think this is a great conference we're going to, and certainly it's one that the product of the whole conference will be upgraded, and we'll have to take her to another level.
I think it's great for Texas Tech because I have believed for some time that intercollegiate athletics is heading for super conferences. If you're not fortunate enough to be a member of one of those conferences, it's going to be very difficult to survive.
Obviously, we have some great friends and some great rivalries within this conference, and it's the only one that I've ever coached in, and you hate some of those kinds of things about it. At the same time, you know, the merger itself has to do with what's best for this university.
It ought to be just a tremendous thing for our fans. It'll be very challenging for our teams, but we feel like we're at that level.
And Southwest Conference basketball in town tomorrow. Tech's Lady Raiders hosting Rice, while James Dickey's team on the road to play the Owls. High school hoops tonight. The playoffs continue, and in town it's boys play Crosbyton and Hale Center. The Owls are mighty tough with Wayne Smith outside doing that for 3. Hale Center off to a fast start, and the Chiefs don't catch him. Crosbyton winning tonight 61-46. Other playoff scores tonight, a couple to mention. Seminole over Graham, and in overtime it was Anton 74, Petersburg 67. Also tonight in town, girls Region 1 Class 3A tourney in Clint playing the state's top-ranked team, Canyon. The Lady Eagles just too much. That's Krissa Moore, and Canyon is 28-3 now as they win 64-49 over Clint. Here are some other scores in girls Class A playoffs. It was Nazareth over Hart. Lorenzo beat Fort Davis. Sudan by 1 over Happy, and Whiteface leading Fort Hancock at halftime. Also tonight, the Shallowater Phillies have been beaten, and Trinity Christian will play for a state TAPS championship tomorrow. They beat St. Paul. College baseball in town. Texas Tech has beaten New Mexico 15-1, while Texas Wesleyan wins at Lubbock Christian 10-8. At the Olympics today, Nancy Kerrigan finished second in the figure skating. Oksuna Bayul of the Ukraine won the event. And here they are, Friday night's plays of the week, and tonight it's our parental guidance suggested version.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Oh, Tommy stunned by
There's nothing like a nice piece of hickory.
First person that asks me anything about Michael Jordan, I'm kicking their ass.
Let's get ready to rumble!
And with that in mind, let's go to the Olympics, where Christine Porter gets a face full of snow in the aerials and some trouble in the ice rink, too. That didn't involve Tanya Harding. And need to make sure those skates are all sharpened up. Most embarrassing moment at Lillehammer so far when two members of the same hockey team went after one another with sticks. Golf shot of the week, that's Bob Hope, whose putt just off the mark, but nothing like having a really good caddy, if you know what I mean. And it goes. And from our It's Not As Easy As It Looks file, Clyde the Glide gonna alley-oop, and whoops, Clyde blew it. And KJ is all alone until Hakeem Olajuwon swats it away. And nothing News Channel 11's Karen McKay likes better than rejection. Karen at the game hoping the big guy will swat another, or that somebody asked Bo the wrong question. And those are plays of the week. That's sports.
Coming up a good reason to appreciate your jeans.
This portion of News Channel 11 is brought to you by Frontier, Dodge, Jeep, Eagle, Suzuki, Subaru.
Slip into your best pair of blue jeans and celebrate. Saturday marks the 165th birthday of Levi Strauss, and John Perchborn knows a man who really has a reason to celebrate.
Happy birthday to Levi Strauss, you millionaire. Happy birthday to your whole family that I know are millionaires.
Actually, Levi Strauss passed away years ago, but that's not stopping Levi lovers from celebrating.
This is the original color. This is the original color when they came out in 1850.
Yes, they've been around a long time, which is why a year ago the company decided to hold a contest looking for the oldest pair of Levi's 501 jeans in America. So how do you tell how old jeans are?
Certain design features of the 501 jeans help us define when they were made. The red tab was first added to the right back pocket in 1936.
And in 1942, a copper rivet was removed from the crotch area. Apparently, too many people had complained after squatting too close to an open fire. You see, those copper rivets can get really hot. Ooh! Using information like this, the company surveyed hundreds of entries, and the winner, a 21-year-old from Lubbock, Texas.
I found the blue jeans at an old abandoned gold mine in Nevada when I was working there as a student geology technician on an exploration drilling rig.
They were from the 1920s. Old Gus remembers those days.
60 years ago, we bought them for $1.29 a pair.
And the lucky winner turned them in for a $1,000 prize and a trip to San Francisco to receive a custom-made pair without the rivet. Ooh. I'm John Pertzborn for NBC News.
Now, John says the word jeans is believed to have come from Italian sailors who were called Genoese, I guess. I don't speak Italian. They wore blue denim on their trading ships.
We'd like to invite you again to join us tomorrow night at 6:15, from 6:15 to 8 o'clock for the Candidates Forum, a live broadcast from Junior League headquarters. We'll pay special attention to the DA's race.
That's our report. Thanks for joining us. Have a nice weekend.
Good night.
You've been watching News Channel 11 at 10, the most watched 10 o'clock news on the South Plains.